There is a war you were never told about. No bullets, no flags, no heroes, only silence and control. The battlefield isn't a distant land. It's not a secret island base. It's your mind. Since the end of World War II, the United States government has spent billions on projects aimed at altering perception, rewriting memory, and reshaping belief, not to liberate you, but to control you. This isn't a theory. It's a declassified reality. Hidden behind black ink, false suicides, and deniable operations lies a history darker than fiction. A history of scientists, soldiers, and civilians turned into test subjects, all in the name of freedom. This is not just about MKUltra. It's about the machine behind it, and the quiet war it still wages. The American mind control program didn't start in America. It began in the death camps of Nazi Germany. In Auschwitz, Dachau, and Ravensbrück, SS doctors conducted sadistic experiments under the banner of scientific progress. They studied how trauma fractures identity, how torture rewires obedience, and how repetition can break the soul. When the war ended, these doctors should have faced trial. Instead, they were hired. Operation Paperclip was a classified U.S. program that brought over 1,600 Nazi scientists to America. Some were physicists, others were psychological warfare specialists. They traded data gathered from crimes against humanity for a second life in American laboratories. These men weren't just hidden. They were welcomed, paid, protected, given new identities. They brought with them the blueprint for behavior modification, hypnosis, suggestion, trauma-induced fragmentation, and drug-assisted programming. They didn't lose the war. They changed flags. At the early 1950s, the Cold War was in full motion, not just militarily, but psychologically. The CIA feared communists had developed ways to control minds, and if it were true, they needed to beat them at their own game. Project Artichoke began in 1951. It was the US government's first major push into mind control. The core question: can we control a man without his knowledge? They used hypnosis. They used morphine, mescaline, scopolamine, sodium pentothal. They tested on prisoners, patients in mental hospitals, and occasionally, their own agents. One method involved deep sleep for 30-plus days, interrupted only by suggestion sessions. Another involved sudden drugging with LSD, followed by intense psychological questioning, a technique used even on American soldiers returning from war. But Artichoke was just the warm-up act. The real performance would soon begin.
MKUltra was born in 1953 under the leadership of CIA chemist Sidney Gottlieb. Its mission: to create controllable human beings using drugs, trauma, suggestion, and secrecy. But MKUltra wasn't a single experiment, it was a hydra. Over 180 subprojects, funded across 80 institutions, including Harvard, Yale, and Stanford, and nearly all without informed consent. Hospitals and universities became laboratories. LSD was administered to psychiatric patients, prisoners, addicts, and unwitting civilians. Some were kept awake for days. Others were submerged in tanks, bombarded with flashing lights or repeating sounds. The most disturbing trials involved psychic driving, invented by Dr. Ewen Cameron at McGill University. Patients were dosed, restrained, and forced to listen to recorded phrases, looped thousands of times while under sedation. Some emerged unable to speak. Others lost all memory of their families. A few never recovered at all. When Congress discovered MKUltra in the 1970s, outrage followed. But the CIA claimed it had destroyed the records. Only a fraction survived. But it was enough to confirm what was once unthinkable. America had turned its own citizens into lab rats. Some former insiders claim MKUltra had a secret branch, one never formally acknowledged. Its name, Project Monarch, where MKUltra focused on behavior, Monarch focused on identity. The core method: trauma-based mind splitting. Victims, often children, were subjected to ritualized trauma to shatter their personality. These pieces, or alters, were then programmed with triggers, words, symbols, sounds. The goal: create programmable humans who could be activated on command and have no memory afterward. Many survivors describe handlers, ritual rooms, and training through torture, hypnosis, and electroshock. Symbols like butterflies, mirrors, cages, and black and white checkerboards recur in nearly all accounts. While never confirmed, Monarch has deep parallels with known MKUltra techniques. The theory that it was an elite-level continuation used for espionage, blackmail, and exploitation, whether myth or hidden truth. Monarch reminds us, the human mind isn't just fragile, it can be redesigned. Mind control ain't limited to individuals. Entire societies can be engineered. The Tavistock Institute, founded in London in 1921, became a hub for group psychology, trauma manipulation, and mass behavior studies. After World War II, Tavistock worked closely with U.S. military and intelligence groups. Their job: predict and control how populations think, react, and change, especially under pressure. They discovered war trauma rewires mass behavior, media repetition shapes beliefs, distraction and crisis increase obedience. Their techniques were adopted by advertisers, media companies, and political consultants. The goal was no longer controlling a person, but shaping a nation. Tavistock didn't hide in labs. It lived in headlines, jingles, movies, and public crises. In the 1980s and 90s, mind control didn't disappear. It evolved into media. Music videos, films, and television shows began incorporating symbolism associated with MKUltra and Monarch, repeating themes of dissociation, mirror imagery, control, and rebirth emerged, often hidden in plain sight. Artists like Britney Spears, Lady Gaga, and Kanye West made headlines for breakdowns, followed by blank stares, missing time, and robotic behavior. Some spoke about being under control. These weren't just PR stunts, they were symptoms. The entertainment industry became both the mirror and the mechanism, and behind every viral image was a program. Today, you don't need LSD to lose your mind. Social media is the most powerful mind control system ever built. Algorithms analyze your behavior, then they reward you with content that confirms your beliefs, heightens your fears, and keeps you scrolling. It's not conspiracy, it's business. But over time, it becomes identity. Your digital environment replaces your worldview, and dissent becomes impossible, not because it's banned, but because it's never shown. MKUltra was about altering individuals. But today's system, it programs you to alter yourself. You weren't born programmed, but from your first breath, they began trying. Through trauma, media, repetition, and fear, they wrote the script. The only question is, have you ever read it?